Hi there. All right. Got a lot of joiners for this live. I'm just waiting for Natalie to join us. And I think she's joined. Yes, let's see her. Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Natalie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So this is great. I'm so glad we could find time to do this live together. And it seems like we have a lot of people who are joining right away. So obviously, advertising this is super exciting. And I think this will be great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Well, as you know, I'm a little nervous, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
it.
I think this will be awesome. And so kind of what I'm hoping is for the people who are following me, you know that my is more about resources and awareness. And I am an educator, special educator. I do not have dyslexia, but I have worked with the population of students that have dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. However, I've gotten a lot of feedback about, hey, can you talk to me about adults with dyslexia? And I'm like, I really want to um, give the dyslexia community, that support. But I figured maybe I should reach out to someone who actually is an adult with dyslexia, and then we can go from there. So,
It still feels weird being told that I'm adult. I feel like I'm still playing adulthood, especially because of the whole situation. I'm back living at home with my mum, so I've just fully regressed. Like, am I even
oh,
adult?
I totally understand that. But, obviously the pandemic has totally changed everyone's world. So it's
Yeah.
totally understandable. And we are getting so many people, and I just want to say hello to everyone. Um, but let's get started because I know it's 9 o'clock your time, and you're in the UK, and I'm in the United States. It's 4 p.m. here. So maybe I'm thinking, so I have a few questions that I will just kind of ask if you can kind of share with our audience. And then there were, I think, 4 people who actually put in questions for the survey I put out that probably would like those questions answered too. So let's get started.
And I'm pretty flexible. Like, if anyone has any questions, like in the chats that are coming up, we can always flick through them as well.
Okay.
You can tell me if I'm going wrong, as you're really the expert, and I'm just
Oh,
the lived experience.
no, I'm not an expert. I'm
Between us,
very
we've got
passionate.
it.
So why don't you introduce yourself and kind of tell everyone where you're from, maybe your schooling, your experience.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Natalie, for anyone that doesn't know, and I have the Instagram page Dyslexia with Adults. And I am obviously from the UK. I live in London most of the time, but at the moment I'm living in Brighton, which is where I'm from. So anyone that doesn't know where that is, it's basically like 2 hours away from London, and it's right on the beach. So that was the reason that I decided to come home.
Okay.
Yeah, so nice, lots of nice long walks along the beach, which has been really, really lovely over the last few months, and it has been amazing weather in the UK.
Oh, that's
So
great.
rare. We're obsessed with good weather, so it had to get a mention.
You know,
Uh,
I do have to say, you said you're in Brighton. I have you heard of the author Ruth Ware at all?
no.
I think she's a British author, but anyway, one of her stories took place in Brighton, and I just remember like visualizing this beach and how beautiful it was. Really interesting. You just kind of said
Well, it's pebbles, so
okay.
it is beautiful in its own like special way, but
Okay.
it's not like some of the beaches in the US and like
Okay.
people around the world. If someone's from Australia right now, we're like, no.
Of course.
It's
I was just
nothing.
making a connection.
Yeah, it's better than my pokey flat in London, so there's no complaints here. And then in terms of like the schooling side of things, so I've picked up dyslexic pretty young. My mum and I have gone through this, and we're not entirely sure, but we're going with 7. But I was basically at primary school, and I'm an only child, so my parents would kind of talk to me a lot, and I had a lot of adult interaction. And I had really good kind of verbal skills and communication skills, and things like that, but it just wasn't relating into the kind of classwork. And luckily a teacher picked it up, and my parents were kind of aware of the disparity, but they just kind of didn't know what it was.
Right.
And a teacher luckily kind of pulled them aside and was like, hey, I think your kid might have dyslexia. And then from there, I mean, I just like have to take my hat off to my mum. She just did an incredible job, and just kind of advocated for me kind of every single day of my schooling. So we talked a little bit before about this, but I was just really, really lucky and went to a dyslexic specific school. So they had a dyslexic unit of like basically teachers specialised in dyslexia.
Okay.
And I had extra English classes, and they were with only dyslexic students. The downside of that is that I got taken out of language classes, so I didn't ever learn a language, which I feel quite robbed by, but
Right.
I'm really grateful for that experience. And I think it's been so powerful my entire life, because you learn in that like unique way, and you just like see everyone around you as you're like, you know, you see that you're not unique, you're not stupid, like
Right.
they're kind of like teaching you that you just need difference rather than like kind of, you know, being treated kind of poorly. So I just like can't stress how lucky I was as a child to firstly have like parents who were just like really supportive, and like would always like, you know, hours of support when I had exams, and like, you know, they gave me tutors, and I had this special school. So I feel like a little bit of guilt about it as an adult now, and like hearing other people's experience, I find it like really tough to know how kind of privileged I am. But equally, I just hope that like what I've learned as a child, and the experience that I had has kind of shown me that, you know, like we need support, and that like support is the best way to like create success. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with adults, is kind of say like, hey, like I know how invaluable support is, I know what it can do for us, and how much it can help. And I know we're not getting that as adults, so it's kind of like trying to say like it's not good enough, I know we still need this, and like trying to kind of like put that support that I had into this kind of like space that is not talked about enough. There's not enough kind of support. There's just it just drops off a cliff, really, is kind of how I feel. But not to waffle on for too long, because
you were great.
I did also obviously have my fair share of challenges. I think, you know, I'm not painting it as a like perfect, like I never had a single challenge, like life was easy street. The kind of really weird scenario of this school is that it was specialised but still really pushy.
Okay.
So they basically were really intense about getting good grades and like being successful. And as a dyslexic, you were given all the tools to succeed, but not any like cut on like what the bar was. Like, you know, you were still meant to be up here. So a lot of teachers not in the dyslexic kind of section of the school would be like, yeah, like we don't really want Natalie in our class, like could she like be in a lower set? And like my mum would be like, no, she's not stupid, you just need to give her a bit of a helping hand. And like, so basically the system in the UK is that you do your exams at 16, which is like where you study everything. Your maths, your English, your science, all of that. And then you kind of specialise a little bit more at 16, and you do this like next set of exams before you go to university. I had to like choose my subjects. And basically I see your question, so like, I'm coming back to you.
And please ask questions, everyone.
Yeah.
Great.
Such a great account for anyone that doesn't know. I can't recommend it enough. But yeah, so basically at 16 I had to choose these subjects, and I went around the science department, and they were like, no, you can't do science, no.
Oh, wow.
Like the maths and stuff, like no. And then I went to the politics department, and then they'd be like, ooh, lots of essays in history and politics, like no.
Wow. Yeah.
um, and I just basically was like pushed from pillar to post of every department, and then being like, yikes, we can't have her and her bad grades in our department. And they're obviously like trying not to be harsh about it, but it's pretty obvious what they're doing. So, you know, like definitely it was a real kind of range of experiences, but I think what it mostly just was invaluable for was just realizing that actually it's just about getting the right tools. That's the key.
Right. And I know, I can't remember, I think it was Michelle Hara. She asked about advice, I guess, in interviews with employers. You know, how do adults with dyslexia engage with the various kinds of interviews? It might be a written interview, it might be an oral interview. I mean, what advice can you give for adults out there in the world?
Yeah, sure. So, I know that there's a real range of views on this,
Sure.
and I've put quite a few posts up on my account on like telling your boss you're dyslexic, what that process should be like, and also I just started a new job 2 months ago, so I'm like freshly through this process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know some people are really strongly against not telling their boss. For me personally, I really feel strongly that you should.
Right. You need that support.
I think so. And I think the key is really in how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, not everyone has the perfect reaction. Not everyone is going to be brilliant about it. I get that there's maybe not the perfect bosses out there that maybe it's not the best to say it to, but I think as a whole, as a generalization, it's really useful to tell your boss. But the way I would go about it is once you've had your interview and you're kind of like in the door, like, you know, you've had all the contract negotiations, whatever, go for a quick chat with your boss beforehand and say, hey, I just want to let you know that like this is my situation, like this is like a little bit of info about me. And you know, you don't have to like just have a meeting about your dyslexia, but just it's like an informal coffee to just get to know your boss, just catch up with them, understand a bit more about the role. And I think then it's the right point to tell them.
It's basically like normalizing them.
Yeah, and I think the key, which I hear so many people not do, is dyslexia is not just a disability. It's so much more than that. There's so many benefits. So I think it's about saying, hey, I'm dyslexic, just to let you know, these are some of the challenges I face, but also these are some of the great things I bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And I promise you, every person that is on this call who is sitting there thinking, no, I don't have any benefits of dyslexia.
Right.
It's not true. It is not true. You maybe just don't understand enough about dyslexia or just don't have the confidence to feel like you have benefits, but it isn't that you don't have benefits. I just can't stress that enough. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing I would just say is that, like, you know, this is your opportunity to understand whether or not this is the right environment for you, this is the right boss for you.
Right.
So, like, if you don't tell them and then you go in and then you have challenges and they're really sticky about it, they're not giving you the support you want, you're not getting the comments that you really appreciate.
Right.
This is quite a chance to get away. Like, so that's why I really strongly advocate saying it, because I think, you know, just before you resign your job, you've kind of done the whole, you're through the 9 yards. And then if your boss freaks out about it, I've had people say that, you know, people have told their boss and they've said, if I'd known you were dyslexic, I wouldn't have hired you. Well, do you know what?
Wow.
Them. Like, they're not good enough for you and you deserve better.
Right.
So I strongly feel like this is your chance to get away. Or realize that you found a great boss and like, get really excited about starting and not have that dread of like, oh my God, I'm dyslexic, what is going to throw at me?
Right.
So, yeah, like that's again, a waffled answer of what I think
Sure. So I have no idea how many people are joining, but I'm seeing a lot of people joining.
It's saying 19 up in the top, like see where
Oh,
it's
okay. I
5 and
see
then there's
that.
the eyes. I think that's how many people.
Okay. Well, just those of you who are now joining in, just want to share, this is Natalie. She's got an awesome page. She's an adult with dyslexia, and she advocates for herself and advocates for adults with dyslexia. And we kind of stumbled upon her page. I don't know when, but I'm so grateful that you were here to give other people in the community who really are needing that support to kind of hear these things. And I just think this is such an awesome opportunity. And, you know, Natalie's been sharing about her schooling, and she was just touching on working, the work environment, the interview experience with bosses. I do want to go back to, I know there was a question who one of the teachers asked, I think it was two Vez in a pod. I love her. Her page is awesome. She's a reading teacher, I believe, in Pittsburgh. And we communicate a lot. And if you love dogs, go check out her page. But she was basically asking, like, what are the early signs that you feel teachers maybe could have done? Like, if they noticed, I think maybe the student has dyslexia, what are some things that could have supported you and throughout that journey?
Yeah, I think like where the conversation is really going with dyslexia is about seeing the benefits as well as supporting the challenges. And I think that that's really powerful. And I'm like so pleased that the conversation is going that way because I
Right.
think, you know, firstly, if you're diagnosed, then, you know, you have the opportunity to learn about yourself. But so many people still feel stupid. Like deep in their core, they think they're stupid.
Right.
And we know that dyslexia doesn't affect intelligence, but people don't believe it. And I think that, you know, they really have to unlock those gifts and those like benefits and lean into them so that they can feel kind of like happy and content in kind of life like when they're older. So I guess one of the things that I would really implore teachers to do is to start thinking about the benefits as well as the challenges, because I think, you know, if you're clued up and you're knowledgeable about dyslexia, there's so much help you can give to kids. And I think people really, when they are clued up, they're doing great things. But that would be kind of the place that I just would like to kind of take the next step on. And I think we already are, but it's just to kind of
Right.
pressing that.
And so I see that Empower Dyslexia is on, and Stephen Yearout is awesome. I did an interview with him a few weeks back. And, you know, he brings great awareness to dyslexia. He's based out of Texas. And I mean, this whole community to me is just amazing. And, you know, when I started this page, I really was just like, you know, I just want to bring awareness. And it's just so amazing how everyone is really trying to get their voices heard and get that support and really get that understanding. I mean, you know, talking about the gifts that you're saying, me as a teacher working in a specific private school for students with dyslexia, these parents were bringing their students to this school from public school. And they were like, my kid is just, I don't see that confident little boy anymore. He's just really depressed. And a year or so into, you know, the school where I was teaching, they just blossomed. And it was just that environment that was nurturing and supporting and teaching to the whole child, not just like, well, you can't write a paper, what's wrong with you? It's like, how can we think of creative ways to approach, you know, education, that social emotional piece, a whole bunch of things that really, I mean, at least here in the United States, in my state, I feel like a lot of teachers are so ignorant to it. They just have no idea what dyslexia is. They don't know how to support the students. They don't know how to identify it. I mean, there's a whole systemic issue there. And I mean, I'm assuming it's probably worldwide to some degree, because there are many people all over that are advocating for their state or their country or, you know, their local area. And it's, you know, I think this is just so powerful for us to kind of share this interview with everyone.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I feel like where people are knowledgeable and switched on and kind of aware, then they're doing great things. I think the challenge, exactly like you said, is the people that just don't know, don't get it, don't haven't like taken the time. I mean, it just feels so patchy, and that's just so frustrating. Is all those people that are getting like slipped through the net,
Right.
and like that's, I guess, I mean, to me, it seems obvious that it should be part of, we have something called a PGCE, which is like how you learn to become a teacher. Like,
Okay.
surely it must be on the curriculum.
Right.
Like,
You
you
would
know, it
think.
just seems mad that you could learn to become a teacher and not study something that affects 10 to 15% of your students. Like,
No.
mad.
It's very disturbing. It really is, you know, and it's just how can we continue to bring awareness? And, you know, I think that's what we're doing now. It seems like we have a lot of comments. I'm wondering if we should look at them and maybe if there are questions, answer them. Because I know earlier in the conversation, I think there was a question.
Yeah, it was by Shaped by Dyslexia. So he was saying, like, do I see a big difference when a friend was joined late? I went to a dyslexic specific school, and like, did I see a wide range of kids of different dyslexia experience? To be honest, no, because it was a really pushy school, and you had to have like good grades. Everyone was kind of like, you know, really switched on, and I think it probably pushed more than mild dyslexic people through, rather than, it just like, when I think about it now, I'm like, a pushy school like that's so grade obsessed and really specific dyslexics. Like, such
Right.
a like strange concept, but it just shows that like dyslexia like isn't about like, you're not stupid and like you can succeed. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is I'm so overwhelmed with joy seeing all these comments in the thread, and I'm trying to read and listen. So sorry that I'm so close to my phone. This is the story is the same no matter what country you live in. Hello from Ghana. Hi from Ghana. Hi, I got a diagnosis at the age of 18, dyslexia and dyspraxic, and no support at university. I find it shocking that my school didn't know anything about dyslexia. I am so sorry, and I agree. That's, I'm dyslexic, but I was 30 before I got to know I'm one. That means, and I suffered a lot without knowing what was wrong with me. I'm happy to see beautiful people talking about dyslexia awareness. Oh, that's so great.
we're happy to talk about it. I think, you know, I hear a lot of people obviously like trying to focus a little bit more on adults. I hear from a lot of people who got diagnosed late, and I honestly, my heart like really goes out to them. Like, I can't tell you how much I think a diagnosis of dyslexia is a gift. I like, it's actually, if you go on my page, it's actually the last post that I did, all about like, if you get diagnosed dyslexic, like what are like my tips. And I think, you know, just like really, diagnosis is just such a gift to understand yourself and to kind
Right.
of understand the benefits, and also just look back on all those past experiences where you maybe felt really stupid, and to go, oh, okay, I'm just different and that's fine. So yeah, I just like, I'm so happy for you that you're now diagnosed, but obviously it's just so frustrating that it's taking people all this time, and in a lot of occasions for adults, it's actually when their kids get diagnosed that it actually ends up happening for them. They kind of don't get a formal diagnosis, but just like look at their kids and are like, oh yeah, oh, this is me. And like, that's exactly what happened to my dad. Like, he found out I was dyslexic and was like, oh.
Now that makes sense.
Light bulb moment.
Right.
And he's a classic dyslexic. He's like an entrepreneur. He has his own business, brilliant ideas, like great, like big picture thinker. Gets his dates muddled up. Like, he said we were meeting on the 1st of June, and he actually meant the 1st of May. So I turned up and he wasn't there. We've gone to the wrong we've gone to the airport on the wrong day, like, you know, all of those fun things.
Right.
So
You guys can, you know, understand and have that appreciation, I guess, in a way of like, okay, maybe we could just, you know, it's lighthearted in a sense because you understand each other.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think you just build like people around you who like kind of complement you. You know, you have those great
Right.
ideas, they have that great organization and structure, and you're just like a little match made in heaven.
Right. Well, it is almost hitting our 30-minute mark, and I know that there are other questions in here. I do see
Yeah.
Empower Dyslexia asked what the school system is like in the UK. How does the school system view dyslexia in the UK? And maybe that can be our last question to kind of wrap things up. And everyone's more than, you know, comfortable, if you're comfortable enough to DM us, and we can continue this chat, but I do want to be cognizant of our time here. So if you want to touch on that, Natalie, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not at school anymore. So I think, like there's always progress going forwards. And my experience when I was younger, I'm confident won't be necessarily the experience today. I think exactly like we talked about, it's patchy. Like there's teachers doing great work, really supporting kids, really understanding how dyslexia like impacts people. And there's also, like people who are maybe not getting the support that they need, and kind of having to go outside of the kind of standard school system. I think
Right.
one of the other questions that I know you had through that I would just really love to touch on is
Oh, sure.
where someone asked about like how do you deal with people who are like ignorant on
Yeah.
dyslexia.
Yes. Yeah.
And I,
Yes,
that's a really good one to touch on. And the
yeah.
honest answer is I if they're open for education, if they're interested and they're ignorant by mistake, and they they just slip up or they don't understand and they're interested, then yeah, like I love to kind of like advocate for myself, talk about dyslexia. And the way that I just really simply describe it is it's a difference. Like I'm just different. Like there's things that I struggle with, there's things that I have benefits for, and the things that I struggle with I need support with, but the great things that I bring are really great. And I think it's just as simple as that. And then the people who are just going to be rude, who are going to make stupid comments, honestly, just no, just I'm not bothered. Like it's their own like lack of understanding, like maybe it's even their own insecurities coming through, and I just have no like I just like I'm more than happy to walk away from a conversation. I'm more than happy to be like, I think you don't understand what you're talking about, or just leave it. Like I think at the end of the day, those people's comments can be really hurtful, and we just have to kind of chalk it up to them being like
Ignorant.
whatever that situation is, and just really take nothing from it. Like I can't tell you how many times I get DMs from people saying that like their bosses called them stupid, or that like they feel really like marginalized in meetings and things like that. And I mean, just honestly, like those people, they're just I just don't have any time for them, and I really think that other people shouldn't take them too seriously. So that's kind of my own advice.
Yeah, and I think that that's excellent advice. And I also think, depending on where people are in their journey, I think you're probably more confident now because you've known this for a long time about yourself. So let's say someone who is 30 who just got diagnosed, that's a lot to be like, okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around, what's going on. And now I have someone that's, being rude and disrespectful. And I think another piece of that is, I was actually speaking to someone the other day about disabilities on kids versus adults. And sometimes society will be like, oh, but they're kids and I can support them and they're cute. But then all of a sudden it's like, but kids turn into adults, and adults still need supports, and adults don't need to be ridiculed and don't need to be belittled and don't need to be told, well, I thought you could do this. And I think that's kind of where the dichotomy, where if there isn't that understanding, there isn't that awareness, there isn't that, okay, let me stop and think, and I think also there's a level of empathy too. Some people just are not empathetic, and they have no patience. So
yeah, and I think that's where you've just got to like just block your mind, just like no,
right.
I'm not taking on board what you're saying, because like honestly I don't respect it. So
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I
Talk
think
to hands. I'm such a 90s kid.
Oh no, you're exactly.
If that came to America, but talk to the hand was just such a British thing when I was growing up.
Oh, I love that. No, we said that here too. Well,
oh, it's so nice talking to you. Thank you so much for asking me on.
Absolutely, and I would love if we could do this again. It seems like we got a lot of engagement, a lot of people that really said this was a good conversation. Please, if you're not following Natalie, dyslexics in adults, correct? Dyslexia in adults?
In adults, yeah.
Okay. Yes, and I will be posting this video on, I think it will go on my page. So I'm trying to figure out if if you wanted to, how you could post it. I haven't figured that out yet whenever
I
people
think
live.
I could share it on stories if you turn it into an IGTV. So you can do
Okay.
that.
Okay. That sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Natalie, and we'll be in touch.
Have a nice evening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.